Your San Jose Sharks were victorious tonight as they took down the Carolina Hurricanes, one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. We'll break it down. We'll break down goal scoring, droughts, over, power play, over, maybe. We'll talk about all that and more right now on a victorious Teal Town After Dark. Good evening, everyone. It is Monday night, February. Wow, where did that come from? November 22nd, 2021. The Sharks are victorious 2-1 over the Carolina Hurricanes, and we welcome you to this edition of Teal Town After Dark. This is your live interactive Sharks post-game. We do this after every game, so if you want to be part of the show, chat with us and fellow Sharks fans on the page or the app. And of course, follow us on the social, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, Reddit, and of course, Discord after the show. And find everything at tealtownusa.com. Now, this is our last night that we're doing something special for Hockey Fights Cancer. As you know, we always encourage you to, if you wanted to support the show, to Venmo us at Teal Town USA. But every Venmo donation to us will go to Hockey Fights Cancer via hockeyfightscancer.com/Vegas. Of course, there's a raffle with that, and someone could win a trip to the All-Star Game. If one of our raffle tickets wins, of course, we will pick from the people who have donated to go to the All-Star Game in Las Vegas. But, of course, we'll have some winners for some awesome Sharks prizes on Wednesday's show. So get your donations in now, and we appreciate each and every one of you who do to help fight cancer. And with that, I will say good evening to you, Al Martinet, alongside Erik Kuhre with you. Al, how's it going tonight?
Very, very good. How about yourself?
Doing all right. It was dealt with a headache all day, but in the end, the Canes are the ones that have a headache with this one. Interesting game, a little slow at first, but I thought there was definitely a feel-out process in this one.
I mean, I thought for the first, let's say, 2.5, maybe even 3 periods, Carolina kind of controlled the pace of the game. But for that first period, it was basically, in my book, basically all Carolina.
Yeah, and we'll get into the first period where we saw another hit on Alexander Barabanov. I think this is like the third one in like the last 2 weeks. Oh my goodness. And Ricky in the chat already saying Barabanov is concussion proof. Changed my mind. On second thought, don't hit him in the head. And of course Ian's mentioned he needs to keep his head above the dasher, and another rough hit on Barabanov, this time from Nino Ryder. What did you think of the hit? Obviously, I would think he got into concussion protocol. Afterwards, it looked like one of the trainers told him, hey, we got to check this out.
I mean, I've said like multiple times that if, automatically a hit to the head is an automatic 1 to 3 game suspension. That's just my way of looking at it for player safety. And even though that they took him back just to make sure the concussion protocol, but like, I don't think they're still doing enough in the league, just in general, about hits to the head. We've already kind of seen how, irregular and just we just can't predict how player safety in the AHL regarding hits to the head are. And regarding Ian's point about how he should have sized up who he was or who he was going against, like, I don't think that's on him. Like, he's playing the puck, he's trying to get position. I think both players were trying to make a move, and I'm glad he came back in the second period. But, this is his second concussion in almost 2 weeks. That's just not good for his long-term health.
And his third dangerous hit in almost 2 weeks, and that's a scary situation. We're glad he's okay. Of course, we're glad that he eventually gets a goal in this game. But I mean, I'm looking at his stats now, 5'10", and crouched down, you're almost getting to like 5 foot in some point in there, and that's where it's going to kind of hurt things in the long run. And you just hope that overall, like you said, his health is okay, he's okay. Obviously, he came out and scored the game-winning goal, but
Yes.
But moving onward, I thought the Sharks really generated some scoring chances here and there. They were just not getting the puck luck. So after one period, I mean, the shots were fairly even at 8-7 favor San Jose after one.
My bigger concern with the first period was like just how many times they were turned over the puck in their own zone. I think there was a stretch like towards the end of the first period where they had, I think, Carlson, Middleton, and Labanc on the ice at once, and Carolina was just dominating. Like they were just taking the pucks left and right, and they were just scoring chance after scoring chance. This was a point where like Reimer was pretty smart about, stopping the puck every single time and just letting the puck breathe. But this could have easily gotten away from the Sharks in the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, and it could have been ugly, but it was good on the Sharks defensively for not allowing Carolina to kind of post in front of their net, let Reimer get full shots to come through towards his way. However, that being said, in the second period, that wasn't quite the best thing, because early on in the second period, about a minute 16, Tony DeAngelo gets his fourth of the year from Teravainen and their rookie Jarvis to make it 1-0. And it was a tough play because Ferraro had made a breakup to clear the puck out, and it goes right to him.
Yeah. I mean, also, like, 3 Sharks are screening Reimer, and, like, he picks a pretty good spot, and it's a pretty good goal. Like, give him all the credit, but, like, when you have 3 Sharks screening your goaltender, come on.
It's tough because it's like, and I'm trying to pull up the screenshot that I had of it, because it's tough to see, and I know this isn't cropped, so forgive me, but you have 3 Sharks there. Reimer's like, where did everything go? I mean, give credit. The Sharks were trying to block the shot. However, not exactly the the best way for Reimer to see the puck, and unfortunately goes through.
I mean, when Reimer is seeing the puck, like, he was stopping pucks left and right. I mean, there was a 2-on-1 opportunity with Sebastian Aho that he stopped pretty well. I mean, if that goes in, it's a 2-0 game in the second period, and it changes the landscape going forward. And to that point, like, I think that's like the critical point right there. It's 2-0, or it's still 1-0 at that point, and you Sharks still have a chance. And this was not the Sharks' best effort. Like if the Sharks would have lost in overtime and still got a point, that's credit to Reimer. But the Sharks getting 2 points out of here, this is still a great game.
Yeah, and goal support is, I think, is more than anything is the big key around here, because I mean, Reimer had a 44 save performance against St. Louis, and they only got 1 goal. Hill didn't get a whole lot of help at all. He got he took the loss in a shutout. It's so it's that. Jerry,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Jerry. Thank you for your donation. Of course, like I said, all the Venmo donations will go to help hockey fights cancer. Go ahead, Al. Sorry.
So 4-1 against the Blues, 4-0 against Washington, 2-1 against, of course, Carolina. But I mean, there were points where the last goal was against against St. Louis.
Yeah,
at one point.
That was Jonathan Dahlin about midway through the second period of that game. So the streak would end in the third period when Kevin Labanc gets his third of the season, his first 5-on-5 point all season. Weatherby gets the assist at 3:54. That would end a 135-minute, 38-second goalless drought for the Sharks. Crazy to see that. So it's but Labanc gets the goal. I mean, that's always awesome.
I mean, this is a player we've been talking about how he's been demoted to the fourth line. Um, Not the best start this season for him, but um, of course, we've seen where he's a very streaky player. He can go on record streaks where he scores 5 points in one period. Um, like this is a very streaky player, and hopefully he gets going pretty soon. But he's on the left wing, and I think Labanc has kind of proven that he needs top line talent to get him going. And I'm just kind of curious if Bob Bubner is going to give him that talent. Um, that's just kind of my reading on it. But Nino, I don't know if that's the line mate for Labanc because that's still kind of a short tandem to do it with.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah. he does get promoted up. With all the injuries going on, with Jonathan Dahlen not playing in this game with an upper body injury. So we'll
Let's
see.
just call it a shoulder injury.
Yeah, we'll call it a shoulderish arm. They said he wasn't able to play tonight, but he might be available later this week, which is crazy to think. But
yeah,
how that looked live, man, I don't know. But I hope he's okay and he'll be ready to go either Wednesday against Ottawa or I would think more so play it safe Friday against Toronto.
I think they might hold him out just because Toronto is on a really good streak right now. Maybe they might sit him out after Toronto, who's the next game. Toronto, Chicago might be the game just to see. Again, that's away, but that's just me speculating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dana Meyerson, thank you very much for your Venmo donation. Appreciate it very much. So I know you've been in the chat as a regular this season and more so. So thank you very much for that. Again, if you look up top, we're doing this for Hockey Fights Cancer. This is our last night for doing that. All Venmo donations will go to help fight Hockey Fights Cancer. So Venmo us at Teal Town USA. We will be doing some drawings on Wednesday's show, giving away some prizes and such. And then all the money that we're taking, we're going to be sending it over to hockeyfightscancer.com /Vegas. They'll be used as raffles into their raffle drawing for a trip to the All-Star Game in Vegas. So if one of our raffles win, we will do another random drawing, and one of you that donated, fingers crossed, gets to go to Vegas because of your generosity. So, but your donation, at the very least, is very appreciated in this one. So thank you very much, Dana, and to all the donors. It's a big, nice thing for you to do.
Yeah, support. It's a great cause. Cancer has pretty much affected everyone that either small or huge. Definitely support it. Whether
you're as tall as I am, or Alexander Barabanov, or as tall as Al and Erik Landy, yes, absolutely. It goes to a big thing. Third period. So I think the Labanc goal, Al, really got things going for this team because all of a sudden they started moving their feet a little bit more. They started getting that momentum. I think there was just like that big way down a little bit, and they start moving their feet, and I think it caught Carolina by surprise.
I mean, I think it was a huge relief because if they would have lost tonight's game, it would have been 5 out of the last 6 they would have lost and not get a point. And this would have been pretty crushing because in my opinion, it should have been 3-0 and by the end of the second period. So just by getting a 1-1 by the end of the third period, you still have a chance. And the Sharks are kind of wanting to get back in the Pacific because you have Vegas getting back up to speed. You have, of all teams, Anaheim, still holding on. And if everything holds out true, teams that, are in playoff position by Thanksgiving tend to usually stay in the playoffs. And right now, currently, the Sharks are not in the playoff hunt. A lot can change that, but, right now, as I see it, we just went through a pretty tough stretch where most of the teams we've played against, Calgary, Winnipeg, Colorado, Minnesota, St. Louis, Washington, and Carolina, those are all going to be playoff teams, and we pretty much got handed to them. So, um, I'm not saying it's like doomsday right now, but you have to get your points when you get them.
Totally. You have to capitalize on getting those points in whatever way possible, and you need to. I think more than anything, and we could talk about the questionable officiating, and then it went both ways. I mean, granted, more so than the Sharks, and I'll get to that one in the last minute. But you saw what the Sharks did tonight. Once they got that goal, that tying goal, that gives them the momentum. They start moving their feet. They start getting creative, not get fancy, but get creative where they get even more chances. I think Tomas Hertl had a nice little toe drag around a Kane defenseman and almost got it through for the game winner in regulation. But you definitely saw a little more zip in their step, and it led to a penalty where Balcers gets tripped up with a half a minute to go. Now, Al, that being said, of all times for it to get a penalty, you're calling one with a half a minute left in regulation. I don't get it anymore.
I mean, we all know that refs across the board, NFL, NBA, NHL, tend to keep their whistles in their pocket last 2 minutes. But to call that the last 2 minutes of a tied game, that's pretty questionable. And it proved to be a pretty costly 2 points for Carolina. But man, I gotta be wondering, like, is that a makeup call for the Carlson no call? Because I'll take it, but like, this would have been the third straight no power play for the Sharks. But
I thought it was like third. It would have been the third game in like the last 6.
Yeah.
Let alone the 18 they've played this season, which is crazy to think. But what do you think that is? This from just not having the puck and them chasing it, or?
I think just most of it. Like, I've always kind of said that you have to earn the opportunity to get the power play, and this tough stretch has kind of proven that, like, yeah, you kind of like, you can complain about the power play, you can complain about not getting calls, but there's been times during the stretch where like the effort has just not been there. Like, the goaltending has been consistent. Yeah, there's been the 4-1 blowout losses, the 4-0 loss versus Washington, which I think is probably its worst effort. But come on, like, you're not gonna, like, if I don't see you skating end to end, I'm not gonna give you a power play.
Right.
That's just my way of looking at it.
You're not going to get that gift. I mean, if let's be honest. Sorry to interrupt. If Connor McDavid's not getting calls, why should the Sharks?
I mean, to your point, yes, but also, I think even Connor McDavid did complain about it during the offseason, and he's now like the most called player to get penalties this season. So I think they kind of heard him complain about it and gave him some calls. So yeah, I don't really read too much into that as long as it goes both ways. So yeah.
No, I get you. It's one of those weird situations where things were called left and right. Besides that Carlson interference call, the other way, Gregor tricks up, a Hurricanes player that doesn't get called. It's like, well, at least they're kind of being consistent. I don't know, but either way,
I think just my point is I want to see the team engage for 60 minutes, because there's been times where even with the huge hit in the first period, you didn't see the Sharks going after or protecting their teammate, or even like yesterday, or even against the Washington game, no one protected Hill. Like, I don't see that right now with the Sharks, which is kind of alarming. So that's more of the thing I focus on is like, yeah, I get with the Hill hit for against Washington that no one went after because they were trying to get a scoring chance, but like there was still no retaliation afterwards.
Yeah.
So I kind of saw that again tonight, which I don't know if that's something Bob Rudner has kind of tried to shy away of or just coach that out of. But if you're not consistently giving effort for 60 minutes, I don't think you should get, the 50-50 calls.
Yeah. No, it makes a great point. I think Rocket was mentioning that on Twitter too. You create your opportunities with that. So a lot of things to get into here. John S., thank you for your donation. Catherine, thank you as well. Laurel, one of our longtime fans and one of our mods on here on the YouTube channel, thank you very much for that as well.
You are the best.
Yeah, Puck Mom said, literally wrote me a note as you were talking here. Hey, Teal, I don't have Venmo, but I'm going to be donating $50, Puck Mom. So thanks, Mom, on that one as well. I got to teach her how to do Venmo. I'm sorry. Love you, Mom. But on the Sharks, on the into overtime, the Sharks get some chances. They looked really solid on that power play, but it was right after the power play that Alexander Barabanov taps it in for the game-winning goal from Hertl and Ferraro. A minute 42 into overtime for the victory there. Did you see the low camera angle pass where it literally went underneath the armpit of the Canes defender? That was crazy.
Yeah.
What a shot too by the cameraman there.
I mean, great angle, but you gotta have some. I mean, you have to have some luck go your way. Like again, I thought the Canes controlled all three periods for the most part, besides the point where Labanc scored. The period the Sharks really controlled the pace was the overtime, and thankfully, once you score in the overtime, and you kind of win. So that's kind of the great thing about it. Yeah. I don't know the shots in overtime, but I thought the Sharks pretty much controlled the pace of it and earned it. But that's, again, most of it's because the Sharks were on a power play for about a minute or so.
Yeah, and they had basically a minute and a half of power play time in that time frame. 3-1 the shots in overtime for San Jose. Overall on the night, the Sharks outshot Carolina 27-23. James Reimer with 22 saves with a .957 save percentage for the victory. Again, Reimer is continuing to be the guy to go to. So we'll see what happens if he gets the start on Wednesday against Ottawa.
I can't see that.
Or do you put him up against his old team in Toronto on Friday?
I mean, tonight's game makes it 3 out of the last 4 from Reimer. It has to, like, for all intents and purposes, Reimer is the number one. He's been the most consistent. I do like Hill a lot. I think, of course, the Sharks goaltender situation is a lot better than it was last year or even the year before. That's nothing to complain about Hill about, but I think Hill's confidence, like the first 10 minutes of that Washington game, kind of showed. I think this would be a good opportunity to at least give him that game. And Ottawa's no slouch. Like, they're pretty good, but they're pretty young. They have a lot of talent. But I think if you play him against Toronto, I think that's just asking way too much. I think that's 4 out of the last 5 for Reimer. Probably not the right situation. So it's definitely going to be Hill against Ottawa. And I think he'll start the last time against Toronto. So I would be interested to see what Reimer is against Toronto.
Yes, he played. Yeah, Hill turned and played against Toronto there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, wait, no, he played Saturday night. He confused me there for a second, but so I get you there. I, all right, Matthew, we'll touch on it. Every goal scored by someone not named Kane slightly reduces the odds we bring back Kane. So let's keep shooting, y'all. I mean, I will. I'll say this. I agree with you. Let's keep shooting more pucks. As for bringing back Kane, Hurdle was a little resistant.
All right, so you want to back it up a little bit?
We could back it up a little bit. Go ahead, bud.
All right. So I think on Sunday afternoon, Kurz publishes a tweet or a press conference. I think he attended some press conference where Hurdle says that he doesn't believe Kane should be back. And also...
Or he skirted around the issue about it.
Yeah. And also, there were also reports about Kane skating at SAP Center, not at Sharks Ice. So...
Or the other way around. They were skating at... He was skating at Sharks Ice while the guys were at the morning skate at SAP Center.
Yeah. So... Again, Kane is supposed to come back on the 27th?
No, he's available on November 30th against New Jersey. The last game of his suspension is this Sunday, the 28th against Chicago.
Yeah.
That's the last game he has to sit out.
Yeah. So, I don't know, man. Like, I think when they decided on bringing back Kane is when they decided to send back William Eklund. And... I'm glad Eklund's doing fine on the Swedish team right now, but
Djurgården, yes.
Yeah, like
he's an assist machine with Marcus Sorensen right now.
I'm glad he's doing fine. I'm glad he's getting the experience. But this was always going to be a tricky situation because, like, if you want to bring him back for the playoff run, like this is again way too soon. And right now he's kind of a locker room cancer. So I don't even know what you do. Like personally, I think the Sharks should just stay away. You have a solid thing going right now. You're 9-7. You're 9-8.
You're 9-8-1. You're back. You're back as NHL over 500, but you're at 500 on the year.
So honestly, like it's not worth it. And I'm not in the favor that this is like a middle finger to the fan base, but like it's pretty close to it. Just because of how much has gone on in terms of all the controversies that have gone on in terms of all the betting allegations, the things that have happened in his personal life. But he did get suspended for 21 games, or 22 games, because he lied about getting a COVID vaccine. Like, everything that this guy stands for is kind of not what the Sharks I thought was stood for. So, I'm not too sure, like you... When the Sharks signed him, I was hoping that the locker room would hopefully build out, or at least eliminate the things that what people talked about him in Buffalo about.
And it seemed like he was early on, with it. I thought he was being a good. How many times we mentioned how Joe Thornton picked him up at the airport and everything. Ran into him at a Giants game on Sharks Bay Area Unite night. Met him up, nice guy. When I went with him, but of course there's that different persona here and there. So I mean, the other day, Kevin Kurz from the Athletic, put up tweets a poll. Would you welcome Evander Kane back to the Sharks after suspension ends on November 30th? over 76% said no. No.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, Matthew, you kind of bring up the point I was about to bring up, is that they can't afford to alienate the fan base that much with also driving Hurdle away.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Well,
I think there's too much at stake with that. Because I think they've learned how bad it turned out letting Pavelski walk. And bear in mind, I think the offer price that Pavelski was asking for was a little bit too much, but the negative effects of that were probably way too much than the Sharks were probably asking for. So you can't let Hurdle walk because he's potentially your future captain if something happens to Couture.
Right.
Or even like your face of the franchise if something happens. So I just can't see it.
First off, Granzier 12. Hey fans, longtime Sharks fan, trying to get back in the fan spirit again. First group I decided to check out. I hope I'm saying it, Granzier. Thank you very much for joining us. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below. It really helps us out. Really appreciate that. Give them a welcome, Laurel. I know you already have. So, there's all that there. Looking at what Kurz said that Hurdle had mentioned to him in there, and this is quote, "I didn't talk to him, and I don't know anybody that saw him or talked to him. Honestly, I don't really know what is the next step or whatever, because I'm like you guys. I don't know what will happen with that. If he comes, he'll be part of the team. But I don't even really think about it because I'm just focusing on game to game. I don't know what will happen there." And kind of the same thing that Booger said, last week. They don't know the situation. We don't know what is going to go on here.
And even if like the Sharks are trying to audition him to other teams, like the contract is still pretty outrageous where the Sharks would have to eat some of that. And I don't think any team's going to take that contract plus his potential locker room cancer. So I just don't see them even trying to do that.
In the other way around with Hurdle is, you're going to get some good value out of him if you were to move him. And heck, and I think we were talking about it last night in Discord after Pucknologist, that if the team that wants him wants to retain salary, you're going to get even more back in that. So, and like Dan is saying, Hurdle's a different situation because he's absolutely in his prime.
Yeah. There's Hurdle and Kane are way different situations. Hurdle, there's not really much of a, he's a good forward. He's a good line chemistry. You can do a lot of things with, but I think there's always going to be a GM that bites on Kane because they just see the talent and they see how consistent he was last year. But bear in mind, last year the Sharks were not consistent, and also the Sharks were among the bottom of the teams last year.
They were bad, and they were feeling bad, to quote Hockey Jerk. Grantier, I subbed, I hit the like. Is this channel active and dropping breaking news and so on, or just post game info? You are new here. We will go live after every single Sharks game. We'll recap the week that was in Sharks hockey every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Pacific on the Pucknologist here with AJ and Jerk. And whenever news breaks, we will try to get on as quickly as we can to talk about it, whether it's a trade, whether it's news of a free agent signing or the draft, you name it. If news breaks, we will jump on. So make sure you hit that notification bell. That will notify you when we go on the air every time. So we appreciate each and every one of you joining us. And, if you haven't told your friends yet, tell your friends. We do this all the time, and we appreciate your support. So, yes.
I think there's a question on comparing this to Pavs and Hurdle. And I'm like, this is not much of a difference to that, because when Doug Wilson signed Kane, it pretty much made the decision on Pavs. So whatever happens with hurdles is its own beast.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a reason to that, and let's be honest, there was some a little bit younger. Kane had a little more, pep in his skating stride as well. Granted, like Ian's saying right now, Pavelski's still great, but the league is littered with guys that hit his age and dove off a cliff. It was a tough choice. So, uh,
Yeah.
it's definitely one of those ones where you take the old adage Bill Walsh used to do when he was the head coach of the 49ers. You always move on from a guy a year before as opposed to a year too late.
It also didn't look good for just the entire organization, in particular Doug Wilson, when the Dallas Stars made that run to the Stanley Cup final.
Oh boy.
Yep, and heard about it for yeah.
Oh, did we? So, since there were Venmo donations, we will do a wraparound for you here. We'll go through these really quickly. Blue Jackets win 7-4 over the Buffalo Sabres. The Golden Knights lose to the St. Louis Blues 5-2 in that one. There, in Nashville, the Predators beat the Ducks 3-2. So the Ducks lose in regulation in that one. In their first game back since COVID protocol issues hit their team, the Ottawa Senators were back on the ice, but they lost 7-5 to the Colorado Avalanche. A pair of goals from Cale Makar in that one. Zach Sanford with a pair of goals for the Senators in the loss. Josh Norris, former Sharks prospect, gets his 7th in the losing cause. The Penguins win 3-1 over the Winnipeg Jets. So another good news for the Sharks in their playoff push. And of course, the Sharks win in overtime 2-1 to the Carolina Hurricanes. So at the moment, the Sharks sit at 9-8-1 on the campaign. They are at 19 points, sit currently 2 points out of the second wild card spot, which is currently held by Nashville. As we get closer to the quarter pole of the campaign already, which this is the time where teams get the idea of like, okay, where are we at? The American Thanksgiving is kind of like that one day, that you kind of see, okay, where are we at with our club here? 9-8-1. I mean, that's, I know AJ's boasted about having the victory on Pucknologist about how he's predicted the season, and so far he's been spot on. But this is about where we thought they would be, maybe hovering around 500 with a shot at the playoffs.
I mean, I think they're always going to be competitive, but they're always going to be in reach until roughly what when they start playing their division, which is roughly around March and April.
They'll have their second divisional game in December.
Yeah. So the scheduling gods kind of worked out in favor of the Sharks, but that's mostly because they'll always be in reach because they can make up ground in the later months. Some of that might be intentional because the Sharks are what the Sharks are, but winning the first four, 2 out of 3 with having the COVID stretch is not bad. I think they've done pretty well with the circumstances, but I think this is still the team that is very much, I think they're worse than last year in terms of like the talent wise, but I think they're coached a lot better because of everything that's gone on.
Yeah. And now we're getting some comments from the locker room. Erik Karlsson, they're the better team if you look at the standings, but it shows we can play against any team. This is the effort that we have to bring, even if it doesn't always go our way. Yeah, and that's the best effort that they need to have. That third period, they turned it on, and they need to have that for a full 60. Let's be honest here. A full 60-minute effort is much welcomed in the night.
I think that's a good statement, but like most of the teams that made the playoffs this year, like the Sharks have really struggled, like against Boston, against St. Louis, against teams that are big up front. The Sharks have really struggled against. And maybe
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and maybe that's something that if the Sharks really decide to bring back Kane and deal with all the bad press surrounding him, maybe that's something you can do. But like, I don't know. Like, that's my worry with the Sharks.
I mean, they played well against Toronto, with who they'll see on Friday. They played well against Calgary as well. So again, they'll remain to be seen as how they play. They are an up and down team. While they played well against Calgary and Toronto, yeah, they've had a rough time against Washington and St. Louis, as you said. So uh,
I will say that the current upcoming stretch for the next 5 to 6 games are pretty open for the Sharks to make some ground up. You have Ottawa, Chicago, New Jersey. You have the New York Islanders and the Rangers in Columbus. Like, those are some winnable games coming up. Um, After that, it kind of gets kind of rough, but
and that's when you finally get into your division.
yeah.
Bob Bugner, talking about the NHL debut of Scott Reedy. He made his debut tonight with the Sharks, getting that rookie lap in pregame warmups. I thought Reedy did well. He didn't do anything to hurt himself. It's a tough task playing against the Canes. Even got some key third period time, even after the Sharks had tied it up early in the third. So,
Oh, I mean, this is what now the 7th Shark to start their first game this season.
yep.
Um, we Some of that because of obviously the COVID protocol, COVID stretch. But I don't think we ever really saw them playing this many rookies this year. So Balsers, even like Dahlin, I think this has been a pretty good start for the Sharks rookies. But like, I think it says a lot about how much they've relied on a bunch of them so far.
Yeah, and it's and they've shown especially in that Sharkakuta stretch, they've shown that they can stick with these guys. There were some rough spots, i.e. the Winnipeg game, but they might have known already by then that they're headed back down to the AHL. But they've shown that they've played fairly well with these guys up in the big leagues.
I mean, like, even with like young guys, like, they're either going to be really good a couple of nights, but then they're also going to be inconsistent nights. So I think this is just the NHL process of making them better, and why I kind of thought why William Ekman was going to stay on the team, but that's kind of a moot point.
So Sharks win this one 2-1 over the Hurricanes. They play Wednesday against Ottawa, or as some people say, Ottawa. That's a 7:30 start, Thanksgiving Eve, we should say, on that one. So while we wrap this up, AJ, if you can give me and it sounds like I'm going to be a telethon person here, can we get a running total of the donations that we've gotten tonight on there? But while we do that, in case you missed anything or you want to watch this again, check us out on tealtownusa.com or your favorite podcatcher, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube. Thank you very much. We appreciate all the subscribers. Please tell your friends about that. Of course, you can also check us out on SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, and iHeartRadio, and of course, always available at tealtownusa.com. We also mentioned, if you are not watching us live, by all means, leave a comment down below. It really helps us out getting into the algorithm on your thoughts about tonight's game and how everything is turning up with the Sharks as they now go to 9-8-1 on the campaign here. And I didn't know this one until it was mentioned. Carlson on the importance of making Team Sweden. The head coach of Team Sweden is former Shark, well-known member of the OV line, Johan Garpenlov, being in attendance tonight. For Carlson, it's something that as a kid growing up, that's why we played, at least in Sweden. For every Swede, I think it's the ultimate honor to represent the country. So we'll see. Johan Garpenlov making the trip to San Jose, which is nice to see. So very cool.
So he was part of the 10,000 that attended.
Yes, 10,970 was the attendance announced tonight. That's in the Cow Palace range. So they're still in
We'll
the
just
five figures. Yeah, I know.
we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, by all means, and like I saw on Twitter today, it's like, if there is a rough part about your team not being the best, it's because it's that it's that tickets are cheaper, so you should be able to go out and take a look. Yes, there are a lot of protocols you have to do to get into the building, but hey, take advantage if you're able to.
I mean, across the board, NHL attendance is down.
Yeah.
We're talking about Toronto. We're talking about Winnipeg. We're talking about top tier Canadian teams. Like, attendance is down. So if that holds true for next season, I think the NHL is going to have a major problem. But hey, tickets are cheap for once, right?
Yeah, right. But we want to say thank you to everybody who has donated to our Venmo account. A total of $114.80 will be going to Hockey Fights Cancer. Our former co-host Chris JWS is going to be matching that. We'll throw in the 50 from Puck Mom. So we're going to get about close to $275 roughly to Hockey Fights Cancer. So that's a great job all around. Each and every one of you, we thank you, everyone. Even if you weren't able to donate, we all know, yes, Puck Cancer. I won't say the F one that Felix said. I'm surprised by you, Felix. I can't believe you would actually say that in the super chat. Unbelievable. But thank you very much to each and every one of you. And Matthew Phipps saying, Johan is stepping down after the Olympics, so potentially a coaching target. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. I mean, the last Olympics in Pyeongchang, saw Marco Sturm, go from running the German hockey club to being a member of the LA Kings coaching staff. So that is pretty nice to see as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad Marcus Sturm is doing right outside of his playing career. A lot of players struggle outside they retire, but yeah, I'm glad he's doing fine.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how Johan Garpenlov does, and we'll see if that leads to something, in the NHL. We'll see. Be cool to see a former Shark getting in there. So, and AJ's going to round it off to $300. So $300 overall will be going to Hockey Fights Cancer. Round of applause for every one of you there. Really appreciate it. Here we go. All right, there you go. See, I got sounders too. Woohoo! I can use them now. But really appreciate each and every one of you doing this. So, with that, we'll get out of here. The Chomversation now will shift over to our Discord channel. It's in the chat right there. If you didn't see this live, leave a comment on what you thought of tonight's game. We really appreciate it immensely. So, until Wednesday night after the Sharks and Senators, keep it real, keep it teal, keep it real teal. Have a great night, everyone. We will see you Wednesday night.